Okay, in this video I'm going to do like a stream of consciousness video, kind of. It has a topic, the thought that's on my mind once again, and I think it happens pretty much every season. Like this is August, and not August, autumn, and it comes around, like I said, every season, but it's because about once every season, it's not perfect, I tend to get interested in certain types of channels, again, not always the same one, different ones on YouTube, or topics elsewhere. And it's usually what some would call drama channels. Okay. I had to take off there because there was one huge dump truck. What do you call them? Not dump truck, garbage truck? Yeah, whatever they're called. And it was barreling down the road and it scared the crap out of me. I was in front of it, so I moved. Real life happens in the middle of a video. No, it wasn't picking up any trash there, just in case you're wondering. It was going to go down an alley before me, but it was just barreling down. You know, this is a neighborhood. It's got kids around, okay? Knowing the way some people are, they'll say, well, you said you took off. I didn't go that fast. I just got out of the way. Anyway, yeah, see, that's the kind of life I've lived. I'm serious, where people are just waiting for you to say anything so they can pounce on you. And that's part of this about what I want to talk about, and pardon the blinker. And it's about what people do online. Seriously, I've said different things I used to talk a lot about once a year or twice a year, about e-beggars, scammers that you see online and all that. And also, you know, I've done, pardon the blinker again, I've done numerous videos about, I did a whole series about people who, they're collecting narcissists. I did a video, series on that, but basically people who believe that because, we've seen this so many times, people that think because they've experienced something, therefore they're an expert on it, and therefore they can do like life coaching. You see me doing air quotes. Life coaches aren't counselors, period. Unless they are actually on this, that's just what they do on the side. Okay, of being an actual licensed professional counselor, whatever it is, licensed where you live. No, life coaches are goal setters, basically. That's what I have always heard since it started off. Right after people started doing life coaching, I heard about it. That's what it was, goal setting. They just set goals. They're not counselors. They're not psychologists. You know, like I said, unless they actually are. But you know, that's another con. It's just a con game, and this is in my opinion. I'm not saying 100% across the board. You know, like I said, they could be something else. They could be where they live, that's legit to do that kind of counseling. No, you know, here's not. No, you could be. It's illegal from what I understand, unless they changed something just very, very recently. It's illegal. But what I've seen most often is the con game. So, and anyway, there are more than that. I want to move past that on this one to go into just people who are not really trying to make money off of it in that way. They're not going to, you know, they're not trying to say they're a life coach so they can get money off of people who are needing help with some serious matters. Okay, where was I? But yeah, I was talking about, you know, the things I see more and more online with this kind of thing. It's always bothered me, but I got interested in it again. It's autumn, and some of the things I'm seeing, like people who are speaking as though a different kind. Okay, like I said, they're speaking as though they're these experts on topics they are not. Just because you experience it, that does not make you an expert. I've experienced a toothache. Doesn't make me a dentist. You know, and the sad thing is the people who will listen to them and go to them, you know, you don't go to your mechanic to have your tooth pulled. I like using dentists. But you don't go to your mechanic to have your tooth pulled. That might hurt. Yeah. Anyway. You know, you'll find people who, you know, are not at all, they're not at all educated in a field, but they're speaking as though they are educated in the field. Now, I was a career student, and because my degrees are in psychology and sociology, because of the sociology part, I studied a lot in many fields, okay, of study. I'm not saying at all that I'm an expert. I'm not saying at all that I know everything about it. And as I see things anyway, I don't believe in experts. I don't believe there's anybody who can say that they know everything there is about a topic, unless, of course, they created it just so they could say that. So you never know. I mean, I think that I would call them professionals, okay? Period. Professionals. Voices of authority. But in psychology and sociology, you are not the only one. If you are actually educated in this, you're not the only one who knows. You're not the one who knows all and everybody else is wrong except for the way you look at things. No. And people who are in these fields, who are actually good at being in these fields, they've actually studied and learned the lessons, they know that. They know their voice is not the only one that should be heard. Okay. But of course, you're going to have narcissistic people. There's a good chance in every field. I cannot think of one where I haven't seen at least one narcissistic person, but I haven't seen them all, It's just my little corner of the world. I don't have any research sitting in front of me. I wonder if there is even any research. What is the percentage across the board of every field of, study, of work, of whatever, out there in the workforce of narcissists in those occupations? God, that would be some kind of research. Let me tell you, that would be difficult. But anyway, you're going to have those who believe that they are experts or that they just know better than everybody else. And I'm not talking about people who all they have is their experience, and people who are educated, mixing them together. No, this is separate right here. Okay, the ones who think just because they've experienced it, therefore they can, help people through it. Your experience is not the same as somebody else's experience, and know that does not qualify you to be a counselor or to give any kind of counseling advice and along that line, at least not here. I don't know where you live, but here and many places that I know, life coaches are not counselors. So anyway, like I said earlier. But anyway, some people have that kind of nerve to just believe it, and they've heard it. Some of them, you think that they've just heard other people say it, so then they say, okay, yeah. And you might see some of those go out and give classes to other people, and they act like they are the authorities of the life coaches even. So they do training classes for up-and-coming life coaches. Oh my goodness, it's just like it blows my mind. Oh, wow. Okay, so that's about people who do this. Pardon my cell phone, it keeps falling off the mount. But people who try to act like they're psychologists or anything in that mental health care field, psychology, counseling, and so forth, when they're not. Okay, they are not. But what about sociology and social work? Now, sociology and social work are two different fields, just for the record. At least here, I have not been everywhere, so I don't know where you live, how they see it. But yeah, in my view, what I've seen here, and my degrees are in psychology and sociology. I taught at college and university. I moved around a lot. I've been to more than one university across various states in the United States. Now, sociology is theory, basically, but they have to know about practice. Social work is practice, but they have to know about theory. Okay, and sociologists tend to be, in my experience, more laid back. Okay, they're not going to be stuffy. In my experience, people who are in psychology tend to be more stuffy. I'm going to put it that way. Also, kind of my experience, psychology was my first. Well, it's actually my second major. My first major was math and computer science. I learned how to program in basic Pascal and a little Fortran. So it was a long time ago. But so I switched for psychology because I wanted something more, something that exercised my brain more. I was a math whiz, so anyway. So I chose psychology, and my experience with that was that it was, where was I going with this? Stream of consciousness, I lost it. But it was that of being more, seeing more people, it's more narrow. At least it was then. It was changing. By the time I graduated, it was changing to where they're opening more up to think that, that they're not the elitist sociologists or just sociologists kind of attitude. No. Sociologists have, in psychology, I think more of what I also had to study, because I earned my degrees in psychology and sociology, was also philosophy. Okay, but it didn't branch out much. It just, basically they studied psychology and philosophy plus whatever little stuff, they had to have, requirements. Sociology, oh my goodness, so many. You had to have history and government as it is, but sociologists went deeper and took more classes in those, economics, also the psychology, the philosophy, education, and it just law. Okay, it just went on and on, because you touch on these in sociology. You touch on different ones. You need to have those so you can incorporate all of it into your mindset whatever you do. Now, some people, they become counselors that way. Now, some places don't allow that, but some do. They can have their degrees in sociology and become counselors or social psychologists, which is not, that's a whole separate video. But anyway, you have to be educated in that field too. Very educated, seriously. And so, like I said, I was a career student. So when I see people who, and one of the things that you learn in both of these is that everybody, like when you're taking psychology courses, you learn everybody thinks you're a psychologist. When you're taking sociology courses, you learn everybody thinks they're a sociologist. You see, and I would imagine the same for philosophy and so forth. Everybody thinks they know more. Everybody thinks they just know. They should have that label, but they don't. They shouldn't. And I have seen people try to tackle things that sociologists and social workers, that would be their area, and they tackle it bad. I mean, it's really bad. Some of it can come off quite, especially misogynistic. Okay, seriously. And it does come off that way. They look at things through that kind of lens, and it's bad. They need to stay in their lane. Now, some people would think anybody, that people who are kind of narcissistic, they think that everybody should stay in their lane, that they're the only ones who know anything about it. That's not true. Okay, and when I'm talking about the professionals, I'm not talking about, like I said before, about the people who think just because they experience it, therefore, no. Anyway, I saw one, actually, I think it was yesterday I watched it, and this person should know better, should know to stay in their lane. Did not, and that was, wow, bad. They would have failed my class, let me tell you, but I'm not their professor, and they're not my student. Some people need to learn that. Anyway, so some people, they go cross over, because they get arrogant. Now, that's where I'm also wanting to go, is that some people, you have the people who think that, just because they experience, but you also have people who think just because they can video, like say just because they have a YouTube channel. YouTube is not the only place where people do videos. But let's just use that as an example, that some of them think that just because they have a YouTube channel, that therefore they are the experts. They are experts, and they have people who are watching them. That they truly believe, people watching, people listen, people give them, thumbs up, and people like their ideas. Even though their ideas, their logic, all of it is flawed, very wrong, flawed, and so forth. But because people are cheering them on, they go on. and on with it when they have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, but yeah, they get spurred on by people who are just, I don't like to use the word ignorant, but it is what it is. Okay, just as ignorant. And they get this confidence from it, this false confidence from what they're, from it. From, like I said, from people who don't know that they're right or wrong anyway. So then they just get more and more encouraged to talk about things, and they're putting out misinformation galore. They're putting out things that can cause people great harm. It's like the people who they found a diet for them, so then they put it out there, and people encourage them, and the next thing that you know, they're talking like they're a dietitian or nutritionist or something like this, and they're not saying this is just my opinion. They're not saying one size doesn't fit all. It doesn't work for everybody. None of that. They're putting it as though this is the one for one and all. Yeah, this can be so harmful. You're not a doctor. You're not a healthcare professional at all, just because you've experienced it. So you have that type that thinks because they've experienced it, they have a YouTube channel, and they have people who are following them that are just as ignorant and spurring them on to do more. Dangerous. Okay, seriously. I remember when I first started on YouTube, when one day I just decided to do it, and then videos about narcissism, and then I realized there was a whole community and everything, and I started watching them because you know how I recommend and stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've said this before in videos before, I could not believe the misinformation they were putting out, and that they were oh my goodness, e-beggars. They were trying to get money from people in various ways. Some were playing a poor pity them party, that they're going to be living on the streets if somebody doesn't help them financially, and people were helping them out. They need it for their children. Oh, those are the worst to me. Those are the worst. The ones that are doing that, or or an elderly parent, and along this line. Yeah. It's awful. And of course the ones I've already mentioned. So I've joked about this before, said I don't like to talk about that because you never know what might happen to you. And seriously, in my life, since there's a stream of consciousness here, in my life, it's like everything that I've ever had a negative, not everything, but many things that I've ever had a negative view on somebody else, what they're doing, somehow, some way I have become tested on that. Within say, could be that day, or just within a week or something like that, real soon afterwards, I'm tested on it. And I don't believe in jinxing, you don't jinx something, but, I'm open-minded enough to think, yeah, there might be something more than what we think there is going on in this world. But I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist. I'm more of a scientist. But my mind's open. So yeah, my mind's open to that, but my mind is not open to people speaking as voices of authority and on issues as people they are not, that could really harm other people. Okay, whether it's physical harm or mental harm, whatever kind of harm. I'm not open-minded to that. I just don't. I just disagree. Stay in your lane. But people have learned if they go drive outside their lane, they get there faster, kind of attitude. But, All right. And, some of the things I've said in other videos, I've said in over years now, that this is also the type that, you could tell them, you really need to stop doing that. But this is the type who will continue, and it will only spur them on more. They only get, they're getting their jollies out of it anyway. So, hey, there's somebody telling them not to, and they're like little children stomping their feet, and they're going to do it anyway because they want to. Yeah. So that's how I see many of them. I don't see it. I can't imagine any of them saying, okay, maybe I'm doing wrong. The ones that I'm seeing, okay, I haven't seen them all. I just don't see them saying that they need to back off of it. They need to realize that there's overstepping boundaries, and that's what a lot of all of this, and to me, is they're stepping over boundaries. There are boundaries of there are reasons why these professions, people need license for to become a licensed professional counselor, or a therapy. What is it? Marriage and what was it again? Marriage and family There's marriage and family counseling, but marriage and family therapy. I can't remember. It was years ago when I even thought about that one. And they're more than that, and there are reasons that they have to be certified or licensed by the state, by the governing body. And people who think that they don't need that to do that, they are stepping over boundaries. That's one of those big red flashing neon signs that says, okay, narcissistic much? Yeah, you think you should get. People should see you for your voice of authority when you're not. You are not. Okay. Yeah, there's the ways to overstepping boundaries, and the behavior is narcissistic. I'm not diagnosing anybody with any kind of personality disorder, but yeah, that behavior, no. And I've said this also. Well, I put it on a different channel. A video about people who seem so innocent, and it's like it's just part of their culture. Maybe there was something like, what would it be? Bartenders. Okay, bartenders. What else? That people will just tell their sob stories to, and then they develop an attitude of that they are the counselors. No, you're not. Just because you're a bartender doesn't mean you're a counselor. But it's part of what becomes part of them to believe that they're helping people by just giving their words of wisdom. Where did you get those words of wisdom? Did you earn them? Yeah. Anyway, I don't think so. Anyway, I'm wrapping this one up.